What happens when a shy, bullied teenager named Jonathan Antoine steps onto the biggest stage of his life? At just 17, Jonathan's voice stunned millions, yet he didn't even win. Can you imagine being second to a dancing dog while the world is watching? From facing relentless bullying as a child to suddenly going viral overnight, Jonathan's journey is full of surprises, heartbreaks, and transformations no one expected. He rose from classrooms and music lessons to signing million-pound deals, only to face challenges that fame couldn't fix. There were secrets behind the smiles, struggles behind the spotlight, and moments that tested him like never before. This isn't just a story of talent. It's a story of survival, growth, and discovering oneself in ways most people never see. Stay with us, because in the next few minutes, we reveal the truth about what really happened to Jonathan Antoine from BGT. Beginnings of a hidden talent. Jonathan Antoine. Even as a young boy, his life was far from easy. Bullied at school for being different, Jonathan often felt invisible. Kids made fun of his weight, his voice, even the way he smiled. But beneath that quiet exterior was something extraordinary. By the time he was 11, Jonathan discovered music. It wasn't just a hobby, it became a refuge. Every note he sang carried the pain of his childhood and the dreams he couldn't yet voice. Picture him walking the corridors of West Hatch High School in Essex, headphones in, humming classical melodies while classmates laughed behind his back. It was in this environment that he met his first singing coach, Jenny Ewington. She instantly recognized a gift that went far beyond normal talent. "This boy has a voice that could move people," she reportedly told his parents. From that moment, Jonathan's life began to pivot slowly, though the path was far from smooth. By age 14, he was auditioning for London's major music conservatories, and the acceptance letters poured in. All four invited him to join. He chose the Royal Academy of Music's junior program, a decision that would define his future. Yet, even with recognition, Jonathan felt the pressure of his peers' judgment. The contrast between his talent and the cruelty he faced made him question if the world was ready for someone like him. Fast forward a few years, and the teenage Jonathan found himself on the edge of destiny. In 2012, at just 17, he walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage alongside Charlotte Giaconelli. The duo, later known as Jonathan and Charlotte, looked ordinary. Nervous smiles, shaky hands, the usual teenage jitters, but the moment Jonathan sang, the ordinary vanished. The first notes of the prayer silenced the room. Judges who had doubted him were now in awe. Simon Cowell even comparing him to Luciano Pavarotti. Yet, Jonathan didn't just face the lights and cameras. He carried every scar from years of bullying, every whisper that told him he wasn't good enough. Behind the applause, Jonathan's journey was not just about hitting the perfect note. It was about survival. Every performance echoed his battles, with self-doubt, with societal judgment, and with the fear of failing in front of millions. Even as he signed recording contracts and went viral overnight, the memories of lonely classrooms and harsh words followed him. Fame gave him a platform, but it didn't erase the boy who had spent so many nights alone with only music for comfort. The truth about Jonathan Antoine's beginnings is a lesson in resilience. His voice captivated the world, but his story, shaped by struggle, mentorship, and sheer determination, is what truly inspires. Before the millions watched him shine, he had already fought battles that most would never imagine. And the question that lingers, could anyone have predicted that the shy, bullied boy from Essex would become a sensation who would redefine classical crossover music? Jonathan's early years remind us that greatness often comes hidden beneath layers of pain. And while the world applauded the performance, the real story was unfolding behind the scenes, but a story of courage, of finding oneself, and of refusing to be defined by others. His journey was just beginning, and the challenges ahead would shape not only his music, but his very identity. From stage fright to standing ovations, Jonathan Antoine stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in 2012, carrying more than just nerves. He carried years of doubt, bullying, and the fear of being misunderstood. At 17, every eye in the auditorium, every camera lens, and every judge's gaze felt like a test he couldn't afford to fail. But as soon as his first note hit, the room transformed. The shy, nervous teenager became something else entirely, a young man whose voice could silence even the loudest crowd. Alongside Charlotte Giaconelli, Jonathan formed a duo that no one saw coming. Audiences expected a simple performance, that may be a teenage experiment, but the first line of the prayer left judges speechless. Simon Cowell, initially skeptical, was openly stunned. The reaction wasn't just about technical skill, it was the emotion that Jonathan poured into every note. His performance told a story that words couldn't capture, a story of pain, resilience, and raw talent. Yet, the path after that first applause wasn't straightforward. Even though millions watched him go viral overnight, Jonathan and Charlotte were still teenagers learning to navigate a world that suddenly moved too fast. Interviews, photo shoots, rehearsals, and recording sessions became the new normal. There was little time to reflect, and even less room for error. Every success on stage brought pressure off stage. How could a boy who had spent so long feeling small handle this sudden fame? One of the most remarkable things about Jonathan during this time was how he carried his past struggles into his music. Every performance became more than a song. It was a statement. The years of bullying, the long afternoons practicing alone, the support of his family and coach, all of it shaped the intensity he brought to the stage. Fans didn't just fall for his voice, they connected to the authenticity behind it. Jonathan's journey was a reminder that talent alone isn't enough. Heart and courage matter just as much. By the semifinals, the duo's reputation had skyrocketed. They performed Caruso, captivating audiences once again. Standing ovations became expected, yet the pressure only increased. Each performance was a chance to prove that their success wasn't a fluke. Behind the smiles, Jonathan still battled self-doubt, wondering if this new world of fame was ready for a boy who had spent years feeling invisible. The finale brought a shocking twist. Jonathan and Charlotte performed the prayer once more, hearts on display. The audience went wild. Judges were speechless, yet the outcome was unexpected. They came in second. Losing to a novelty act, a dancing dog, was a moment that could have crushed anyone. But Jonathan's reaction showed his inner strength. He didn't crumble on stage. Instead, he carried the experience as fuel for what came next. This wasn't the end. It was a turning point. Behind the scenes, opportunities were already forming. Simon Cowell, who had once doubted him, moved quickly to secure a recording deal. Jonathan's teenage years had gone from nervous auditions to million-pound contracts almost overnight. But even as doors opened, the weight of expectations remained. Could he balance fame with personal growth? Could he stay true to the voice that had carried him this far? Jonathan Antoine's rise from stage fright to standing ovations was more than a journey of talent. It was a story of transformation, resilience, and discovery. Every note he sang carried the past and hinted at the future. And while the world celebrated the real challenges, the split with Charlotte, solo career, and personal struggles, were only beginning to unfold. The audience saw the triumph, but only Jonathan knew the battles behind each standing ovation. And as his story continued, the questions remained. How would he navigate fame? Could he turn heartbreak and pressure into fuel for greatness? Stay with us, because the next chapters reveal how Jonathan's career and life evolved after the glittering spotlight of BGT Solo Spotlight and Big Decisions. After Britain's Got Talent, Jonathan Antoine faced a choice that would shape his future. The teenage sensation had just experienced the highs of viral fame and the shock of finishing second to a dancing dog act. But the applause wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter. Interviews, album recordings, tours, life moved faster than ever. Yet Jonathan had to ask himself, who was he beyond the stage? Even amidst this success, tensions started to surface between the duo. Charlotte loved musical theater and wanted to explore diverse styles, while Jonathan felt drawn to pure classical opera. The two were not in conflict. They simply wanted different things. But in a world where teenage artists are thrust into global stardom, even small differences can feel monumental. Audiences loved the duo, yet Jonathan quietly wondered if he could grow fully while staying part of it. By 2014, Jonathan took a bold step. He released his debut solo album, Tenere, and the reception was staggering. At just 19, he became the youngest tenor ever to top the UK Classical Artist Album chart. His performances of arias like Panis Angelicus revealed a voice that had matured far beyond his years. Critics described his tone as velvety, rich, and emotionally powerful. Every note seemed to carry the story of the bullied boy who had once hidden in classrooms, unsure if anyone would ever truly listen. Yet, fame came with hidden struggles. Despite the chart-topping success, Jonathan experienced pressure and loneliness. Behind the smiles for cameras and fans, he was still navigating personal doubts and the weight of expectation. The world saw talent and triumph, but few witnessed the late nights in practice rooms, the exhaustion of endless rehearsals, and the emotional toll of living life under a microscope. Alongside his solo career, Jonathan began performing internationally. Invitations poured in, from prestigious music festivals in Europe to guest performances alongside legends like Placido Domingo. He traveled across continents, proving he was not just a BGT sensation, but a serious classical artist capable of standing on his own. Fans watched every performance, inspired by his precision, control, and the raw emotion that had become his signature. Amid the professional successes, Jonathan's personal life also grew more complex. And at the same time he was touring and recording, he faced health challenges and personal hardships that few knew about. Years of childhood bullying had left emotional scars, and dealing with sudden fame only amplified insecurities. Yet, Jonathan approached every obstacle with discipline, the same focus he applied to his music. He began to understand that resilience wasn't about never struggling, it was about using those struggles to fuel growth. His solo journey wasn't just about albums or tours, it was about self-discovery. Each performance, each recording session, each moment on stage without Charlotte beside him became a statement. Jonathan Antoine could shine alone, without losing the heart that made him special. And as audiences around the world fell in love with his voice, Jonathan learned to love himself a little more with each passing day. The story of his solo rise reminds us that success is rarely linear. There were moments of doubt, heartbreak, and challenge, but there were also moments of triumph that few could imagine. From the boy hiding in hallways to the young man performing in sold-out halls across the UK, Jonathan Antoine's story was far from complete. Health battles, personal struggles, and life-changing revelations were still ahead, and the next chapters would reveal how these trials would reshape not only his career, but the man he was becoming. Battles behind the spotlight fame brought applause, but for Jonathan Antoine, it also brought hidden struggles. Even as he toured the UK and the US, recording albums and performing on prestigious stages, the shy boy from Essex carried the scars of his childhood. Bullied for years, Jonathan had always used music as a shield, a place where he could feel safe and in control. Now, under the glare of cameras and adoring fans, he faced pressures that no amount of talent could prepare him for. Behind the glittering performances, Jonathan quietly battled depression. He has openly shared that the years following BGT were emotionally exhausting. There were nights when stage lights and applause couldn't mask the loneliness and anxiety that haunted him. Yet, Jonathan never let the audience see the full weight of these struggles. Each note he sang became a story of survival, every aria a reminder of the resilience forged in childhood. Around this time, he also faced challenges in his personal relationships. A difficult romantic relationship in his late teens tested his emotional strength, leaving scars that took years to heal. Jonathan relied heavily on his family, his parents and sister, who became his constant support system. Their encouragement reminded him that while fame could be fleeting, family and self-belief were anchors he could always rely on. But the challenges didn't end there. Jonathan had long struggled with weight and health issues, which added another layer to his journey. Managing a thyroid condition while maintaining a demanding performance schedule required discipline and determination. Slowly, he committed to a healthier lifestyle, walking thousands of steps daily, changing his diet, and building routines that strengthened both body and mind. The transformation was gradual, but remarkable, proving that resilience isn't just mental, it's physical too. Through all these trials, Jonathan didn't retreat from the world. He used his experiences to inspire others. He even co-authored children's books aimed at helping young people navigate bullying and self-esteem challenges. Jonathan's voice, both on stage and off, became a tool for hope, showing that survival is not about avoiding hardship, but about rising above it with courage and authenticity. By facing his battles privately while performing publicly, Jonathan Antoine transformed adversity into strength. His journey reminds us that behind every standing ovation, there is often a story of unseen struggles, quiet determination, and the courage to keep moving forward, no matter the obstacles. On discovery and transformation, Jonathan Antoine's journey took an unexpected turn in his late 20s. In 2022, shortly after his 27th birthday, he received a life-changing diagnosis: autism spectrum disorder. Suddenly, pieces of his life that had always felt confusing began to make sense. The struggles with social interactions, the intense focus on music, and the challenges in personal relationships were no longer mysteries. They were part of how his brain worked. For Jonathan, understanding this about himself was both liberating and overwhelming. This revelation helped him reframe his past. The bullying that had haunted him as a child, the intense pressure of early fame, and the emotional battles during his solo career all now fit into a clearer picture. And it wasn't that something had been wrong with him, he simply experienced the world differently. This understanding didn't erase the struggles, but it gave him tools to approach life with more self-awareness and compassion. Around the same time, Jonathan made another dramatic change: his physical transformation. Years of battling weight challenges and managing a thyroid condition had weighed heavily on him, but through dedication, daily walking routines, and a healthier lifestyle, he lost over 70 pounds. The change was visible not only in his appearance, but also in his confidence and energy. Fans noticed, applauding not just the physical results, but the discipline and determination behind them. Jonathan's music continued to flourish alongside these personal changes. His solo albums, including Tenore and Believe, I had already established him as a classical crossover star, but now his performances carried even more depth. Songs like Going the Distance, recorded with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, showcased his mature voice and emotional range. Jonathan's ability to connect with audiences grew stronger, reflecting not just talent, but lived experience. Today, Jonathan Antoine balances his career with advocacy. He speaks openly about mental health, neurodiversity, and anti-bullying initiatives, using his platform to inspire and support others facing similar challenges. He continues to release music, perform internationally, and share glimpses of his journey with fans, who affectionately call themselves the Fantoines. His story is no longer just about talent, it's about resilience, self-discovery, and embracing every part of who he is. Jonathan Antoine's story isn't just about music, it's about survival, growth, and discovering who you truly are. From a shy, bullied boy hiding in classrooms to a teenager who stunned millions on Britain's Got Talent. From heartbreaks and pressure to a solo career filled with triumph, Jonathan has faced it all. His battles with depression, health struggles, and the revelation of being on the autism spectrum show a side of fame we rarely see. Yet through every challenge, he transformed pain into strength, fear into courage, and doubt into determination. Today, Jonathan continues to inspire not just with his voice, but with his story. Every performance, every album, and every message of hope reminds us that true success comes from embracing yourself fully. If his journey moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Stay with us, because stories like Jonathan's deserve to be heard.